Good morning, all, or happy earlier morning for my guest and others of you living in the past. And welcome to Kal-bardr's Corner for this episode of Coffee with Cal. I am Baron Kal-bardr Gellir, Painting the Meridian Cross, Painting the Argent Comet, Painting the Compostela, Painting the Palmer's Lantern, Defender of the West, and Reaper. Coming to you live from the southwest outpost of the Barony of Southdowns, here on the beautiful southern coast of Meridies. Today, I am joined by a knight of some renown in the West Kingdom. I had the honor of beating him and then getting promptly beat by him during the Rose Tourney at Ontier West. He is one of the founders of Blackwood Company and an all-around pretty awesome guy. Please welcome to the show, Sir Neil Greenstone. Good morning, my friend.
Well, good morning, Cal, and hello, everyone. I'm Neil Greenstone. I have been a member of the Society for Creative Anachronism since October AS18. And my first event was the Mercenary War, and that kind of hooked me right there. So since AS18, I was knighted only 5 years ago, and I have to correct Cal. I am of little renown, but other than that, I appreciate being here today.
I mean, some renown, little renown, that's close. I said some. I didn't quantify an amount.
Some little amount, then.
Some little amount of renown. I have to say, of the people I met at Ontier West, like, your name came up multiple times, and people knew who you were. Therefore, you have some renown.
Well,
it's a good renown, potentially.
Yeah. And most of that renown is because I have friends at Ontier, and
that's fair.
So you heard my name on both sides of the event because Blackwood Company has been multi-kingdom for many years, and Ontier was the cornerstone of one side of it, and the West was the other. And then we had outposts in other kingdoms. So my name is associated more because of my war field and my unit than I think anything else. But I also maybe have a skewed idea of what my own image is because I like to think I'm in the background, but everybody tells me I'm not. So
that's a thing. And before we get too far into this, so you did tell me that you are a Principality Marshal as well, correct?
I have just taken over the office of Principality, the Miss Marshal, yes.
So because of that, we will do the official bits here. The views and opinions expressed in this show are those of the participants and do not reflect any policy or position of the SCA Inc. or kingdoms or principalities that we are parts of. Remember that these are our opinions, not theirs. There you go. I've covered my butt now. We're good to go. All right. So this show is, of course, coffee themed. We have important things to do before we dive into the topic itself. Let's talk about our beans. Today, I have a new brew that Kisa picked up for me. It's from Market and Maine, which is based out of Millville, New Jersey. That's the opposite side of the world from our guests here. But it's a salted caramel, which I love a caramel thing. This is the first one I've had that actually doesn't taste sweet. It actually, the salted comes through, and I was really impressed by that. So I'm happy. But more importantly, I have this awesome mug that's made by a friend here in Kingdom Bronco. We recently got to take some of his pottery out to the West Coast for the Miss Newbie gifts. So you'll see some cups like this floating around out there hopefully soon. So cheers to him and yay coffee. So what about you, Neil? What are you drinking today?
Well, apparently I am a rookie on this show because I am drinking French roast, and I pretty much don't like any of the flavored coffees or anything like that. The stronger, the more bitter, the better. If it's sweet, I'll probably still drink it because I'm addicted to coffee. But
because caffeine, yay, that's right.
Yeah, it would not be my preference. And my mug today is something that I don't know if you can see. But
that looks like a Blackwood mug to me.
It looks like a Blackwood mug, but it was a thriftwood store pickup. There was only one, and it has our unit device on it. I'm like, well, I've got to take that home, and that was over 20 years ago, and I have managed not to break it, thus far. So I don't want to jinx it. So
Right. That
here,
was my so I started getting fancy cups right when I sort of got back in the SCA. Was like, oh, I get a fancy cup, and like all my Westie friends bought me a cool Feed the Ravens mug, and I had it on the show here for a while, and I was like, I got to go back to an event now. I got to carry this cup, but I don't want to break it. I've been so scared, and I went through one event drinking with it and didn't break it. I was like, all right, I think I've got this now. So I just make sure I don't drink on top of concrete things. So if I drop it, it's at least on grass, so there's a better chance of me not smashing it. So yeah, it's dangerous, man. So it turns out just having multiple mugs is the answer. So if you break one, you just grab a different one. Works out.
so name dropping, but Sir Ajax
Please.
kind of has a philosophy that if he breaks it, and he breaks a lot of mugs, it is just more opportunity for the artist to give him a new one.
Right.
Right. And he's just putting the pottery back for the archaeologist or something like that for 1,000 years from now.
Which I could just on that note, and good God, we've already derailed. We're 7 minutes in here. I cannot imagine archaeologists in 1,000 years digging up some of our event sites and some of the stuff we've dropped over the years. Because you get the ancient Roman coins next to a cell phone. They're going to be very confused, and it's going to be very funny to me. So it's okay.
And hopefully we can actually be watching and just laughing.
Right. Fair. All right. Yeah. So yeah, from pottery is meant to return the earth. Yeah. From whence it came, I suppose. So
that's the phrase that Ajax used. So.
It's meant to return to the earth. I like that. All right. So we've mentioned Blackwood a couple times, and I love the cup. You happen to find the right cup for this. This works out. So mercenary culture. This is something that we talked a little before the show about this, that I am not as used to, and was a bit surprised by when I came out of the West Coast. I knew about it, talked to Lash and others from Black Company, and I was like, okay, I know mercenary culture is a thing out there, but was not ready for the impact of it. So out here in Mercenaries, it's something we have. We have Shadow Legion, we have Rolling Thunder, both sort of multi-kingdom households. But the culture was not there. But we don't deal with the payment of mercenaries as much, and we don't deal with sort of that idea around that. And I came out to Ontario West, and there's all these different free companies, as I was corrected by at some point. So I guess Neil, you've been around this for a while now. You said AS 18, which good God, that's a minute. So what's been your experience with mercenaries? How did you get involved with Blackwood? Give me the history here.
Well, very simply, about 13 of us were sitting around in a college campus cafeteria playing cards together, and somebody came in and recruited us to go out and become a new unit of archers. So there were basically, she was a very pretty person. We all were geeks, and she seduced each and every one of us by just talking to us. Had hundreds and hundreds of arrows. She had a dozen bows. This is back in the day where you could get on the field with a fencing mask and carpet armor, because archers at that point were not allowed to be hit with sticks. Right. So she basically put us all out on the field and then disappeared. Literally disappeared. She went overseas for like 6 months, and we were all out on this field. One heavy fighter, because one of us had found the SCA before this, and 12 archers. And we call that in Blackwood War Zero, because we weren't yet a unit, but we looked up and went, my God, what is this thing? Right. And where did the pretty girl go? But we really, really enjoyed that first taste of the SCA. And so we banded together, found a name, and decided that we needed to do this again and again and again. So as a band of 12 archers and one heavy fighter, over the years, we trained up. Other people joined the unit. Some of the 12 people moved out of state, and we just kind of grew from there. Um, and we had no connection at that time to the society other than war,
Right.
right? So we were all initially from the same shire, the Shire of Southern Shores, because that's where our college was. But when we had graduated, we, scattered around the West Kingdom, and then people started finding jobs out of state and kind of grew there. And we decided, well, you can have a branch of Blackwood up in Ontario, or you can have a branch of Blackwood in, Colorado or what have you. And at one point, probably 10 years in, our roster was over 120 people.
Oh, wow.
And at a West Ontario war, I think we fielded the most at about 35 to 40 of us fielded at a war at West Ontario about 25 years ago or so.
Right.
So, and then, you know, life happened and we kind of imploded for a little while. And some of our leadership left at the same time. Others, we just kind of tapered off. And about 5 years ago, those of us who were still in the unit, but it was kind of mostly dormant as far as our presence, we all got together and went, our lives are kind of come back and we're all getting kind of reactivated and remotivated. So we kind of reformed, I would say just about the time just before my knighting. So about 5 years ago, we started growing again, right? But we've always been multi-kingdom because half of the active members are pretty much in Antir, and the
Right.
other half are down here in the West. So,
Oh, and now you have a pledge from Meridier, so
yeah,
it's definitely spreading out a bit. So
it is not uncommon to basically get the taste of a unit cohesion and the camaraderie and go, I want to take that home with me.
mm-hmm.
So, and that's really what happened 39 years ago, but it remains true for everybody who doesn't have that connection to a regional, a barony, or a principality unit, right?
Yeah.
They find their people and they need to call themselves something. And to me, that really is what the mercenary culture is about. It's finding your people. And hey, we like this thing. We want to do this thing together. If you happen to be, if that thing happens to be warfighting, you might become a mercenary unit. If that thing happens to be needlework, hey, maybe you join a guild or you create a guild, right? It doesn't matter. It's just about allowing people the game in whatever format that they are willing or able to conceptualize.
Right. Well, I think it's really interesting to look at. So when you're talking the idea of mercenaries, guilds, pockets, classes, whatever sort of descriptor you want to put on it, that's not the official shires and baronies of the SCA. I think it's an interesting concept because the shires and baronies of the SCA are very geographical, right? Shires, baronies, kingdoms, whatever you want to look at. So, and I've talked about this before. I'm not like my local barony, here in Mobile. I don't get along with them anymore, and really haven't in years. So it's hard for me to do stuff locally. It's hard for me to really express the want in that group. So the barony I play with is 6 hours away from me. I don't get to play with them often, or like when I travel out to the West Coast, none of them come with me. So I'm by myself a lot of times, and I travel a lot. So it's it's nice to find a group that's like that spans those areas. So when I'm somewhere other than in home, I have a home, right? That was really I guess the appeal for me, and that's I think just an awesome concept, and what the SCA is built on is the idea that you just talked about, that letting people play the way they want to play and how they want to play, and helping encourage that doesn't restrict us geographically, right?
Well, and the problem with the geographic groups is that they're generally driven by charismatic people, maybe or once and future princes or kings, right? But then you get new leadership in that region, a new seneschal, a new baron, right? And they might have a different game that they want to play.
Right.
And so all of the momentum that that group has, and I saw this in the Barony of Darkwood, which was founded by my knight, and then the next Baron, Baron Wilhelm, put together a really cohesive war unit, his Huskarls, and they had all of that camaraderie and just motivation as a team that I saw in Blackwood, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was the same, right? But they were founded around the barony and Baron Wilhelm. When he stepped down after like 12 or 14 years, and I apologize, Bill. I don't remember exactly how long you were Baron, but the next Baron came in, wanted to try to encourage the arts, and so he did not necessarily have those Huskarls as his own, right? So they kind of waned. And that happens when you have regional restrictions. If you have a group that is not tied to a region and they have a way that they work together so that they don't implode leadership, they don't have different ideas of what the unit is, right? So they're all cohesive and can encourage each other and grow with each other in the same direction. Then you get units that stick around.
Right.
Because you got a group of people that are having fun and there is no end date. There's no expiration date other than people's personal motivations. And if it's a unit and a personal capability of participating wanes, the unit can still be there and still go on without them.
Right.
And that's why I think you have such large mercenary companies around the known world. And in my little neck of it, that's why Blackwood has been here for 39 years now.
Which, so speaking of some mercenary pride out there, certain black companies are throwing out some shade in the comments. Just want to point that out, that apparently they had the largest Western unit this year at West Ontier. So just gonna.
That's perfectly fine. Tell Lash that, or I will tell Lash because he's watching. You guys you didn't wane. You have had a great amount of recruiting. I'm in awe of your guys's unit cohesion. I mean, you do it a little differently than Blackwood does, right? And apparently, all mercenary companies have to have the term "black" in their name,
which he mentioned as well. Blackwood, Black Rune, Black Company, Black Sail. Apparently, there's a handful of them.
But in any case, Black Company is just a fantastic brother, sister, comradic unit. And I love fighting with them and I love fighting against them. So
okay, so that brings up an interesting point. All right, so as a mercenary unit and as someone who, and I want to speak to you as a knight here too, how does that work for y'all? Like, who do you fight for? How does your allegiance? Because like I know there is an exchange of coin and occasional booze involved, and do you have restrictions? How does that, like, tell me that? How does that work?
So, and this brings me to a point that I wanted to discuss too. Mm-hmm. So, I am a knight. I'm in fealty to the Crown of the West, right? This is not my company. It's not like they're,
sure.
I am just one of the rank and file right now. Mistress Kelsey was elected for Blackwood as our company captain. We generally have.
Who I have to say, I did invite her first as the guest of the show, and she nominated you to take her spot. So
she did, because she's also my lady wife and throws me under the bus for public speaking because that's not what she prefers to do. So in any case, if say Ontier had approached us and decided that they wanted to hire us, Kelsey would bring that to the group, show whatever bids we're receiving. Right? We don't really ask for much. Blackwood traditionally worked for cookies and root beer, right? So if they were homemade cookies, that was even better, right?
Right.
But um, typically over the years, a beverage, it doesn't have to be alcoholic, right? And some morsel of food, generally cookies, and we could be yours for the day, right? And back before we all started getting peerages, um, our motto was court cost extra. So you could hire the unit, but don't ask us to go to your court,
Right.
right? Because we were fringy. We were all out on the fringe and we were having a good time, and court just took time away from, you know, the partying afterwards and sitting around the fire and saying, no shit, there we were. Oh my God, you had a great day today. Did you see when that guy, fell down, or you took out those two knights that just thought they were going to mow us over? You know, that's that's really what being a mercenary unit is to me. It's getting out on the field together, and not just the field, but the people that are helping us get to the field, the water bearers or support, as we
Mhm.
like to call them. They're part of it too. And our success is the unit's success, but the stories, the memories that you build in team fighting versus tournament fighting,
Right.
right? It's much more inclusive when you're out there on the war field with your friends and you look up and there's a unit twice your size and you manage to kick their ass, right? If that happens, great. That is certainly a war story. But if it happens the other way, that's also a war story. Man, they mowed us over. We were dead like that.
Yep.
Happens both ways, right? Hopefully, more frequently that you come up with the glory stories. But you got to be fodder for somebody else's glory every now and again, and admit that too, because that's how you grow. But it's, to me, that dynamic, that team thing is what motivated me, and still motivates me, obviously, for almost 4 decades now.
So
But I
yeah, we get derailed about peerages. So how do you deal with your fealty versus the company's allegiance?
so hiring the unit is hiring the unit.
Mhm.
If the unit decides that they want to fight for a different kingdom, and I now as a knight, I have a chain. Um, I'm going to go personally approach my king and say, my unit is contracted to go to Ontir. We gave you the opportunity. You chose not to hire us. So they're going to go fight over there. May I join them?
Mhm.
But that's the game that I chose when I took the belt over the baldric,
Right.
right? When Lash, who's on here, when he became a master at arms, he had to go through the same thought process, and uh, his concern was that his loyalty first was to his unit. And I think I'm conveying that correctly. Lash, correct me if I'm misstating, but he he personally felt that he could not take the chain because of his previous commitment.
Right.
In Blackwood, we had a knight early join our unit, and that was Sir Theodoric of Skane. And he continued to fight with us. But whenever we were either traded to the other side to help equalize sides, right, or we contracted with the other side, he had his personal conversation. And if the king or queen basically put their foot down, then he wouldn't fight with us, right? So when I had that choice to make 5 years ago, it was easy for me
Mhm.
because my knight also, Sebastian von Baden, considered taking the baldric, but he eventually chose the belt. And you know, I had to consider it
Mhm.
because my loyalty to my unit and to my friends and to my family um, is beyond anything that I might have for anything else,
Right.
right? But because I chose to go with the belt and the chain, I'm perfectly comfortable now making that distinction and if necessary, fighting against my unit,
Right.
because that's the game I chose, and my friends all accept that, and they realize if we fight for Antir or we fight for a Qaid, there's a decent chance that maybe Neil and now Sir Daoud would and Sir Richard also, right? Maybe the three of us wouldn't be able to fight, at least with the unit. But it's only one war, right? So most of the time, though, that has not ever come up. But if it were, it'd be an easy conversation to have.
Yeah, I think and maybe that's why the mercenaries aren't as strong of a culture over here, is because in Meridier specifically, a lot of our, first of all, we only have knights in Meridiers. I'm sure there's a master or two around, but none of them that are active here on the coast or in this region. And like it's the default when somebody's knighted. And I know there are other peerages that matter, but it seems like the knight distinction is the biggest one. There's not even a question of whether you're taking the baldric or whether you're taking a belt, right? It's you get a belt and a chain. That's the default. Not
That's
saying they wouldn't do it, but what's that?
That's the game that most of us growing up in society recognize, right?
Right.
And the master at arms are significantly less presence, and so most people, when they're deciding what they want to be when they grow up, they don't generally say, "I want to be a master at arms," right? And even as kids, when you're the storybooks and so forth, there's not a lot of stories there of a dashing master at arms, right? It's always the knight on a white horse or what have you. So I get why the masters are there. It's important to be inclusive and allow people that really cannot put their minds around the fealty to the crown to acknowledge that they are our equals, right? And those people, and that's really what it came around to. Master of Arms came around because we needed to be more inclusive. And I know it was the first one was because of a religious commitment that could not make that fealty without foregoing their own religious beliefs. And so it came about, but it's a good thing to have, even if only one in 50 choose it.
The fact that it's even an option out there, I think I appreciate, right? That it's, again, it's an option here in Meridias as well. I'm not going to speak ill of them, but the fact that it's given as an option in every ceremony I've seen, like they make that conscious choice, I think is really cool. Also, so Lash did agree with you. Speaking of his loyalties there to his lady, to his family, and then to Black Company, obviously his loyalty to Crown would be after that, which I appreciate that. And that's an interesting thing that he has that as a consistency. So,
my loyalties are basically the same, but why I was able to take my loyalty to Blackwood and my loyalty to Crown and say I can do both was when we were the largest force on the field for many years, right? We would routinely be broken up in order to even up sides, because if you take this large unit and put it on one side, and now there's so many people there that no one has any fun, right? So I was always the one that volunteered to go fight against my unit, right? Because was a javelineer of renown, and I could change battles back then with my javelins. And so I would go and challenge our unit and basically show them what it was that I did. But I was always the first one hands up because I didn't want anybody else to feel not included.
Right.
So I'll go over there, and most of the unit or all of the unit besides me is on this side. And they basically showed me the error of my ways when I did that, because I was the first person they hunted down and killed.
Of course. Yeah. You find your friends first. That's how it works.
You're dangerous. We're going to kill you first, and then we're going to take out everybody else.
Right.
So it actually improved my abilities on the field, because I learned how to fight against Blackwood,
Right.
but they also learned how to freaking kill me very quickly sometimes.
Right. Hey, I think that's an important skill to have, and honestly, that it really then gives you an interesting concept for people who fought against your own company, because you can then see where your holes are that you may not be able to see from behind your line. So that's really interesting.
So when the choice came up, it was easy because I've fought against Blackwood over the
Right.
years many times.
So have you had a king or queen put their foot down and make you fight with your army versus your company at any point?
So the theory is there, right? But
Hmm.
at the moment, we have not, since that I was knighted, we haven't had a bid from another kingdom to make
Gotcha.
their choice, right?
That works. I think, but that's an interesting concept, I guess, to look at the fact that it's an option. Um, so does and do you guys solicit bids, or is it just you're there, people come to you? Like, what's the
We
is there
generally
like
reach
campaigning?
out. Well, we generally reach out, or if uh, if the royals are aware that Blackwood is a mercenary unit or Black Company is a mercenary unit, generally, they can, step up on the throne and the next day be contacting us and saying, "Hey, I got a war coming up in 5 months. Are you guys available?" Right. So the more aware ones can do that, and sometimes it takes that in order to get maybe more active mercenary units like Black Company contracted,
Right.
right? Um, or like the Bodkins, which are our archer unit here in the West. They're very quick to get hired as well. For Blackwood, it tends to be based on the personality of our captain at the time.
Hmm.
We've had some captains recently that were absolutely on it, right? And they were pinging the Royals the day after they're stepping up and saying, "Hey, I'm open for bids." Right. But if your individual is a little less comfortable with that, they might, hesitate and wait until it gets closer. So
Hmm.
it doesn't really matter. Um, to us, the pay is secondary to the camaraderie on the field. So when we do get contracted a couple of times, like my knight Baron Sebastian von Baden back in the day, uh, forgot to bring the pay. So at one point we held Königstadt, the where the battle was, and we said, "Okay, this is Blackwood's until you pay us." So we had the Shire of Königstadt or uh, for like a month or so before the next event, where he brought pay and said, "Okay, can I have my piece of my barony back now? Thank you."
I'd like my land back, please. Thank you. That's funny.
But I mean, historically, you know, you would hire mercenary units
Right.
to supplement your standing army, and it was not a pariah thing. It was actually a very valued thing that, especially for me, from a poor Irish family, my persona, right? It was a way that you can get out of the house and send some money home and support your family by going and becoming a professional soldier that is hired and goes to all of the major battles, right? And you might be considered cannon fodder by the royals, but if you're a standing army that's professional and you've trained together, and that's what you do, versus the peasant levies and so forth that historically might brought in, um, you might have a lot more impact as a mercenary unit than as uh, the standing armies there.
Right.
And your reputation as a mercenary unit is what got you paid. So it's part of the game, and it's something that adds enjoyment, I think, to a lot of us who have, especially those have friends in a lot of places, and we
Right.
want to fight together.
Well, yeah, no, I think it's really it's impactful, and again, I noticed it out there that having those little pockets and you could see it, and it was very like I think the care is a little different. So like I as part of Meridian, so I feel with the Meridian Army, and it's a thing, but there's not like a Meridian like you don't see it as much. Right? We don't because we haven't. We're so disparate. We're so spread out. There's not like everybody's wearing the same thing. Everybody's fighting the same way. Everybody's got the same shields, or whatever. But when you saw Blackwood, or you see, I saw a couple other units that were like the Sable Hawks. There was a couple other units. I was like, oh look, that's obviously a unit together. They all had the same tabards, the same shields, the same. They had, and like stuff swapped in and out so that you guys looked like a unit together. And that was, I think that itself made an impact because the visual was there. It wasn't
Mm.
just a disparate line of people that happened to be from the same kingdom. It was you guys showed up with a purpose, and I think that makes a difference because you showed up together. You're not just there because you happen to live within an hour of each other or 5 hours or whatever the time is. And yes, it is an official SCA YouTube show. The cat has been on the screen now. We're legal now. My cat, I swear. She will lay in this bed for hours on end. The minute I turn the camera on, she's like, "Oh, you're on camera now. Let me be in the way." Every time.
That's cat for you.
That's true. But yeah, but I think that it makes an impact, right? And I'd seen it with, like I said, Shadow Legion and Thunder. Thunder a little less so. Thunder, whereas they are a household family together, they don't have as much of a visual impact as Shadow Legion does, or as like Black Company, Blackwood, all these others over there I saw. But the impact is still there. I think it's that makes a difference. Like I was more scared, I guess, of that unit than I would have been had it been just the same people with their kingdom. For instance.
Can I tell you a real quick no shit there I was story?
We got 30 more minutes. Come on.
So I started as an archer, and that same War Zero, I threw the bow and arrow down because every step I took, my arrows were flying out. So grabbed all my friends' javelins, carried them in my arm, and I was a javelineer basically for the next 4 years before I got into rig as a heavy fighter. My first war as a heavy fighter, and you're new, you're putting your rig on for the first time. The battle started before I got out there, right? Struggling with my stuff. And so I come running out onto the field late, and Blackwood is up kind of on a slope over here. And Griffin's Guard, which was a mercenary unit of major renown, a heavy shield line, was down in the flat. And there was a good 40-foot gap between the two units. And this was a West Qaid war. And Qaid outnumbered us, and so they had no gap. They had a solid line coming at it, this ravine battle. And I'm running up, and I see this 40-foot gap. I have the same cape that you saw me wear. I still wear it. I have a Blackwood emblem on my chest. I have this cape flowing off my shoulders. I've got this halberd. I have an imposing, huge helmet, right? And I go and I step into that gap, and I cross my halberd, and I literally lift my shoulders up, stand as tall as I can with the wind in my face and the cape blowing here. And I'm saying to myself, none shall pass. The opposing unit looked at me and went and saw the rest of my guys up here. And they're like, that guy can stand by himself there. I don't want anything to do with him.
Right.
And I presence attacked them to going away. And they didn't hit that 40-foot gap and just roll us out like they should have. And I'm standing there for minutes in this battle going, none shall pass. And then finally went, and they started attacking the corners of the units here. So I'd step forward, right? And the pikemen that are attacking the corners are, ugh, and they, back off. And the smallest shield at Griffin's was my friend Mindy, who was also my hairdresser. And she looks up and goes, Neil, is that you? Yes, yes, it is. And she's like, oh, shit. And she runs up, and now we're two of us sitting in this 40-foot gap, right? And she, I don't know how much she weighed, but she was like 5 foot nothing, right? And the two of us are standing there, and they start ignoring us. And so we actually go kill a couple of their pikes because we run forward, kill them, and run back into the 40-foot gap. They never charged us. Brand new fighter, made a difference. And it really was the regalia that I had, the Blackwood emblem on my chest, and the fact that I looked like I knew what I was doing. And they're like, so it makes a difference. Psychologically, it makes a difference when you have, that franchise as a unit, and you look like you know what you're doing. You look like a professional, and you can translate that to how it must have been in the real world 1,000 years ago, right? When you have a company of people with all the same stuff coming at you, it's not you and your neighbors, right, against them and their neighbors. No, this is, you're looking across, and it's you against that 100 guys coming, and they're all coming for you. It doesn't matter that you might have 100 guys too. They look like they know what they're doing and that they're all together, right? And so the threat becomes bigger, even if it's not, because it looks like it's it's an impact. And that's true for all of the large units. If you look at Trimaris, right? When they get out there as Trimaris, oh my God, that's huge. And they're all focusing at me, right? Or what Kal-bardr shield wall is, I think, the best example of it. And, you look, and they look like they're together. And obviously they train and they are together, right? As a big block fighting. But you look across the field with, you and your neighbors, you and your buddies, and it's us 8 against that 100. And that makes a big difference on how you approach that battle in your mind. Until you go, wait a moment, it's Valhalla. I can get up. Let's go.
We can do this again. It's fine. I've got 3 reses. Yeah.
But you got to remember that, right? But initially, it does kind of change the perceptions. Anyway, that to me was another thing that motivated me, because I completely and utterly would have been blown over by any two of them that had come my direction at that point. Right. Maybe depending.
You knew which end the pointy end was, but that was about it. Yeah, at that point, right. Yeah, no, but I think you make a great point there. And so you were called out on an F-bomb, by the way. So apparently, franchise is the new F-bomb. So
I did not realize that was a swear word. I'm sorry.
Apparently, the franchise is the new F-bomb. So there you go. That's
I'm like, wait, I have not been drinking. I should not be swearing.
No, as a knight, franchise is your new F-bomb. That's the rule.
Okay, thank you, Krista.
That's right. She said that. I was like, that tracks. I like it. Oh man, so yeah, that's. I think you're absolutely correct, and I had a very similar happening at On Tier West this year. There was when I was fighting during the first battle with Blackwood, and we were in groups of 3, and I ended up being the only one standing there left because people else had died and peeled back. So I took my spear and just sort of waved it in front of me. They didn't want to come at me, and I was like, wait, this is working. So I just stood there for a while, just holding a line back just by waving the spear around because I had a flag on it, and apparently I looked more impressive because I had a flag on my spear. So yeah, it's a thing.
What Blackwood has been traditionally a archer unit with heavies, right? So we're mixed weapons, and one of the things when we were primarily javelineers, because they kept there was different rules that required for archery, people had to put screen in, and they didn't like that. So very frequently the archers were off the field, right? And we had maybe a dozen javelineers and 3 or 4 heavies. Our javelineers would get down to the last javelin, and we call this the ooga booga, right? If you go ooga booga, right, and you make a throwing motion, it freezes people. They look at you, oh my, and you never throw that thing, because then you cannot you cannot basically juke them out of their socks. So you make the throwing motion, and they look at you, and then the heavy fighter that they're fighting kills them because you've distracted them, right? And that's how you work together with that kind of thing. And Torix, who is brand new to the society, his very first war, comes back and basically says he did the same thing with his bow.
Mm-hmm.
When he was out of arrows, he did this, and he killed people by making them look at him, so that and we had talked about it at the practice we had just before the battle, and he used it to good effect. Brand new fighter to us, at least. He's done things, but had a great time because he could do that with a group of people, and he knew he was adding to the team's success. Right? It increases the fun when you're doing it with other people. Right. It really does.
But yeah, I mean, I love tournament fighting. Don't get me wrong; I'm something I enjoy doing. I have not enjoyed war fighting as much because I don't have I'm a protege. My household doesn't fight. I don't have a fighting unit here in Meridies. I have not enjoyed it as much until I've experienced it with like Blackwood and sort of other groups like that that trained together and sort of had a spot for me to live and sort of spot me to be in. That cohesion of that does make it more fun because you're not by yourself anymore. Like fighting by myself on a line was not enjoyable for me. I did not enjoy that because it's my one spear is not great. The multiple spears with the archers behind us with the shield in front of us, that's what makes it useful for me. And that to me was a lot more effective than just being by myself. So I think you hit the nail on the head there.
Right. And even if
training works.
Yes, Cap.
Yeah, that's right. Training works. Which, by the way, I was told you have practice next Saturday, but don't forget that you have practice. To remind you of that.
Hopefully, everybody's got a clean bill of health by then. So.
Right. Yeah, the COVID, man. The COVID's bad. So, all right. So we got about 10 minutes left. I want some more silly stories. I want to talk more about payments. So you mentioned that Blackwood liked getting paid in cookies and root beer. Well, out of your experience, go ahead. Sorry.
I would say that's the traditional payment, right. But some people didn't like root beer, so we expanded to a beverage or what have you. And basically the good negotiating tactic for all those people who are creating a new war unit out there, right, is to throw it back on the person that's hiring you and say, something to the effect of, something that would, reflect well on your generosity.
Right.
So we'd like a coin and maybe a beverage for everybody, including all of our support people. And don't forget your support people because they're the ones that keep you alive. Right.
Right.
But also then try to say, and something that
think we might have just lost Neil. All right, so it looks like we've lost our guest. Yep. All right, so we will. I'll fill time for a minute here. The question I was about to ask Neil before he lost. Yep. You lost me, Neil. Hold on. Let me kick him and he'll rejoin. So I have a question for those out in the world here, because I know at least Lashed out there and the others. What's the most ridiculous payment you've ever seen? So I know we have some royalty out there and also some other mercenaries. Tell me about your payments in the comments here. So I know at the last war with Blackwood, there was wine from the princes, so they were paid by the mist. So wine from the prince's family's winery. There were coins, and I didn't see the cookies, but I may have missed the cookies. So I'm sad if I missed the cookies. although I probably couldn't have eaten them because of vegan things. But oh, here he comes. Welcome back.
I see you've had enough of me, so you just kicked me out.
Right, I was done. Just couldn't have it. Nope, I told you. Sometimes that happens. Bandwidth is a thing. We lose people occasionally. So no, I was just talking to the audience there about the payments and things, and that at the last word that Hans brought wine from his like family's winery. And that was really interesting to see. So it was a very personal gift from them, or payment.
So you should probably get Lash on your show and have him talk about payment, because he's a master at negotiating.
Right.
Or at least Black Company is.
But then I have to talk to Lash, and that's a hard limit for me. So I try to keep Lash at a distance as much as possible.
Hey, it's only an hour, and you could put up with me. So
that's fair. That's
totally
fair.
Put up with Lash.
See, I gave Lash a whole show just so he could talk. It was just that was easier for me. I just gave Lash his own show. It worked out well. I also can hear him laughing from here, so it's funny. So I know. So So what's the weirdest payment you've ever seen? Oh no, there we go.
I don't know.
Or the largest, or go ahead. Sorry.
No, not for Blackwood, but I did hear about a mercenary company that got tunics for all of their people. That's huge.
That's a big crazy. One, yeah. Let's see. So Lash has commented 5 kegs and a barbecue for the entire tribe. We also got otter pops in Australia that was 104 degrees. I could see a good popsicle would be a good payment.
I think the most extravagant payment we got back when we were like 100 people was the Royals decided to cook dinner for all of us. Needless to say, there was not enough food because we brought more people than they expected. So if you're a mercenary company and you're going to require that your hosts feed you, have backup plans, because things happen.
Bring pizza. They're not ready for you. Let's see. From Krista says, awesome pay with salt in a bag shaped like a dick, coin, a meal, and housing at a future event. There you go. I like the salt in the bag shaped like a dick.
Krista is more the memory bank for Blackwood than I am.
I think somebody has to have it. That's good. You have one of those. Oh, all right. So we're just a few minutes out. Let me do a little bit of show promotion here, and then we will do some final thoughts, do some wrap up here. So coming up next on Kal-bardr's Corner, let's see what I got here. Oh no, I didn't load a graphic. All right, Neil, tell us the story while I do things. Hold on. Tell us the story quick. Go.
I'm not good with quick stories. So.
Damn it! All right, hold on. I think I got it. What's my next show? I don't do things. There we go. There it is.
I actually just wanted to say, if you did get Lash on here for an hour, you don't have to put it on the air. Just tell him you did. Right?
Fair.
He could be talking.
We're totally live, Lash. It's fine. It's good.
Yeah, just keep going.
No, I really enjoy talking to Lash, and I gotta say, as much as I love Blackwood and love the hospitality I received from them, Black Company is their hospitality is second to none. I was super impressed by when I was there, seeing them and just not only on the field but also off the field. I think that both of those units and others I've seen who just that thing was it was impactful, right? To see the units jump up and helping people and doing stuff and getting things done. It was just nice to see. So
well,
I don't have an answer for that.
Stop yelling at me. Watch.
Most of the good companies help people to get out on the field, right? You get rigs together, you build a lot of loyalty and a lot of camaraderie when you get new people out there to re-infuse the unit with enthusiasm, right? If you've been doing this for 40 years, it's hard to go, well, I've seen everything, right?
Right.
But if you get a new person like Torx at West Frontier, everything is brand new to them. And if they have a chance to help them get onto the field, even a slight amount of help, you get so much from supporting those new people. right? Because as, a gray-haired guy who goes out and does this, right? I don't have that energy I had, when I was a young man. But to see that energy, that enthusiasm, and to be even a small part of it really reinvigorates those of us who are veterans, right? Or I should say veterans in the society.
That's fair. All right, I got the things loaded now. So coming up next on Kal-bardr's Corner, let me. So next Sunday, Baroness Ramut will be back with Road to Retention. She'll be joined by Arcos Athelina Gray, who I think I saw in the comments earlier. So looking forward to that show next Sunday. And then the following Sunday, back on Koffee with Cal, I'll be joined by the Prince of Glen Albin, the Prince of Pump himself, Prince Axel, for modern leadership, talking about the idea of applying modern leadership tactics and sort of strategies to our medieval society. Axel's a great guy. I enjoyed. I've known his lady wife Jack for years. Recently met Axel, but I've just enjoyed getting to know him more, and really interested to see what he has to say as somebody who does that mundanely, how he applies it to his medieval society. If you enjoy Coffee with Cal and KK Productions and everything we support here, look us up on Patreon, patreon.com/KK Productions, and join the Grand Wall of Patrons. You can get some awesome game boards and other stickers and whatnot. If you want to just purchase some stickers, you can look us up on Redbubble, search KK Productions. You also can check me out on TikTok at Kal-bardr. That's it. Coming up. So yeah, there we go. So this is gonna be hard, but summing up Mercenary Culture in like a sentence or less. Neil, what was your, like, if you had to pitch Mercenary Culture in the elevator, what's your elevator pitch for Mercenaries?
I would say it is a group of individuals that come together to be more inclusive, regardless of borders, and find that camaraderie to work together and the joy of warfighting, right? Basically, it is an inclusive group that goes beyond arbitrary borders.
Right. There you go. No, stay here with me. Love me. Awesome. I think that sums it up great. It is definitely something that I'd love to see more of. I'd love to see more of our those units breaking out, because I think it, especially in something maybe I'm hoping COVID has encouraged, is these starting to break down kingdom borders a little bit. So, Neil, I want to thank you for being on today, and I'll thank the captain of Blackwood for nominating you appropriately. I appreciate you, and again, I appreciate Blackwood and their hospitality. So, looking forward to being back out there, hopefully soon, to stay in the field with you guys.
So, well, Cal, thank you for inviting me, and I'm kind of amazed that you put me on camera for an hour and you didn't actually shut me off more often. So.
I didn't have to mute you.
He's just rambling again. He'll click him off. He'll come back.
He'll be back in a minute.
Thank you.
And of course, thank you to all of our audience out there. But for now, that is an empty cup. I have been Cal, and he's been Neil. We appreciate you guys coming out. Y'all have a great day. Have a good one, everybody.
Bye, everyone.